Hey, good evening, and welcome to the January 25th meeting of the Murfreesboro City School Board. We're glad to have the crowd with us tonight that we've got, and we're glad to have those that are at home watching. At this time, I'm going to ask you to please stand as we have Brennan Crispin, a 5th grade student at Irma Siegel, and Whiston Davis, a 6th grader at Northfield, to lead us in our pledge. And I understand Miss Crispin is going to do it in sign language, so we're glad to have both of you with us tonight.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now a moment of silence. Thank you. Board members, I will remind you to please remove your mask when you're speaking for a TV audience. All right, you have received a copy of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Communications, Ms. Trail?
Good evening. Happy School Board Appreciation Week.
Thank you.
We appreciate you guys a lot. I want to start off by just saying Mitchell Nilsson would like to thank Mars Pet Nutrition Company for adopting over 40 families at Christmas. And thanks to their community partner, First Baptist Church on Castle Street, for donating fresh fruit and other food items to be shared with their backpack food families. We would also like to thank Read to Succeed for their donation of books to Bob the Book Bus. As you remember, we depleted a lot of those books over the winter break, and so we have more back, and we appreciate our partnership with Read to Succeed. A special thank you to Murfreesboro City government employees for their enormous donation of food to the backpack program. The donation was a result of their Pack the Packs food drive initiative. We received over 20,000 items, so Greg and his team have those all ready to go out in this upcoming few months. Congratulations to Cason Lane on receiving a $3,500 TVA STEM grant. It's titled Fruits of Our Labor. They're going to begin an orchard out at Cason Lane. This is part of their STEM designation. And I was waiting for that to kick on. So this is part of their STEM designation and part of their plan for that outdoor classroom areas. Hobgood also received a $5,000 grant titled Let the Music Ring for an outdoor music area. So congratulations to both of those schools for receiving that TVA grant. John Pittard also received a grant this week. Actually, they received it last year, but they received the actual vending machine. It's a book vending machine. I couldn't think what to call it. That's what it's called, a book vending machine. It arrived this week. They have unwrapped it. They plan a ribbon cutting later on, but that was part of a Nashville Predators grant, and it's really cool. So if you're over at Pittard, go and look at their new vending machine. Bradley, sorry, I lost my place there. Bradley's African American Cultural Celebration has been moved to February 24th at Patterson Park. That was scheduled for last week, and just because of weather and everything else, it did get moved to February. So again, that's February 24th at Patterson Park. Murfreesboro City Schools Job Fair will be held on Saturday, February the 12th at Scales Elementary. There'll be a virtual job fair also at this time, so people can come in person or they can join us online. And the HR department, as well as our curriculum instructions, working on that to make sure we get the best and the brightest at Murfreesboro City Schools. Also, do want to brag real quick on Murfreesboro City Schools. We have had I should actually give this to Dr. Duke. He likes to say this as far as our model of demonstration schools. We received our credentialings of those last week. So, as far as gold level model of demonstration schools, which is part of the Tennessee Behavior Supports Project, RTI2B, Murfreesboro City Schools has more gold level schools than any school district of any size in Tennessee. So that's quite the accomplishment. With that said, I will tell you the gold level schools are Black Fox, Cason Lane, Irma Siegel, Hobgood, John Pittard, Overall Creek, Reeves Rogers, and Scales. Discovery School received a silver level, and bronze level went to Mitchell Nielsen and Salem. So we are very proud of their accomplishments. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Duke for Spotlight.
I'm going to come down to the podium tonight for our Spotlight on Education. And tonight for our Spotlight on Education, we are actually recognizing you guys. And we want to say thank you to our school board. As you are aware, this is School Board Appreciation Week here in Tennessee. And we want our public to make sure they understand that school board members play a crucial role in our community as they provide oversight to our city school system, all of us knowing that a strong public education system is key to our state's prosperity and helps ensure a quality of life for all of our citizens here in Murfreesboro. The past 2 years were definitely not planned, I'm assuming, when you ran for this seat, and I dare say this has been one of the hardest times in recent history to help guide a school district. Not only have you helped set the standard for education in Murfreesboro during the midst of a pandemic, but you have worked alongside our leadership team to assure the stability of our district after the passing of Dr. Gilbert. I appreciate the diligence, time, and questions and perspectives that you bring to our school board, and above all, I appreciate the standard of professionalism that you have set as a board. Tonight, we give our appreciation to each of you who make it possible for local citizens to participate in education and whose commitment and civic responsibility make local control of public education, schools, and our community possible. To help honor you, each of you have a variety of thank you gifts at your podium, notes and items from our schools. These are very small tokens and just one way that we hope to help honor you for your hard work and dedication. So as an MCS employee and as a parent of an MCS student, I would like to say thank you and be joined by the rest of our staff to say thank you for help leading our district and making MCS a great place to learn. So thank you very much. Next, I would like to move on to our Best of MCS recognition for the week as the last part of our communication. So, as you know, last time our Best of MCS is to recognize people who make our district stand above and beyond. So tonight we're going to celebrate another group of people as we honor our Best of MCS. Since we have returned from winter break, we are all very aware of the challenges we have faced due to the current COVID surge. We have worked very hard as a district to make sure we could continue to focus on keeping our staff and students safe while also keeping our schools open. We know that in-person instruction is not only the most effective learning environment for our students, but keeping our schools open is also critically important to the families in our community. It has been no small feat to accomplish this over the last 2 weeks as we have faced staffing shortages due to the COVID surge. However, we have been able to keep our schools open thanks to the hard work of a lot of different people. First, our school nurses continue to do Herculean work every day. Our teachers and support staff areas have worked in new ways to make sure our schools are supported, and our school principals have carefully managed their buildings to ensure our district and our students are being served. Tonight, though, I would like to formally thank one group of people who have stepped up to assist us over the past few weeks. Our ESP, or Extended School Program team, has worked incredibly hard to provide needed substitutes to help cover our classes when many of our staff members were at home. Over the past 2 weeks, they have provided anywhere between 15 and up to 35 substitutes or additional people each day who would come in, work in our classrooms, make sure our classrooms had qualified people in them while still providing before and after care as well. Even now, with MTSU's semester officially started and many of them being back in class, they are still sending staff to assist in areas of great need. Because of their willingness to step up and assist, we are able to keep in-person learning going despite these difficulties. And I would like to bring up our ESP supervisor, Candy Powers, as a stand-in to formally recognize her as a thank you to all of our ESP staff. And she has some people she's going to introduce to say, for this month, you definitely represent the best of MCS. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Duke. This is a really, really nice honor. I am going to accept this award on behalf of our site directors and also the staff, the ones that actually went into the classrooms and did the subbing for us. But these folks right here, we could not have coordinated this effort without all of these directors communicating with their 15 to 20 staff at each school, 13 schools. It's been a Herculean effort, as Dr. Duke said, but we did it. So first, I would like to introduce the central office staff that work with me. First is our personnel coordinator, Daphne Brinkerhoff. Second is our lead accounts manager, Jessica Weekly. Our communications and part-time account manager, Alyssa Cole. And our Reeves Rogers site director, Tony Herndon. Our Mitchell Nilsson site director, Maury Nelson. Our Black Fox site director, Caitlin Deffendahl. Our Irma Siegel site director, Savannah Phillips. Our Northfield site director, Alice Sally. Our Hobgood site director, Cindy Haynes. Our Overall Creek site director, Brooke Zeiss. And our Discovery School site director, Brittany Hackney. And we had 6 ladies that could not be here tonight due to various reasons. And I would just like to read their names to recognize them as well. Kristen McMullen, the director of Bradley Academy. Crystal Weinrock, the director at Cason Lane. Lisa Martin, the director at Salem. Tracy Vaughn, the director at John Pittard. Eden Fryer, the director at Scales. And our newest hire, Iris Chapman, who is our director in training. So thank you so much, Dr. Duke. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, I think this really puts a stamp on the philosophy that we're working for the whole child, and also that it is a team effort all the way from the top to the wherever. It's a team effort to keep our buildings running and to educate our students and provide the best we can for our employees. So, ladies, thank you, and gentlemen, thank you very much. We do appreciate what you have done in the past 2 weeks and the weeks before, and I'm sure what you're going to be doing in the weeks coming up. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, consent items. Do we have a motion to approve the consent items that are printed on the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, action items. School Board Policy 6.306.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the second reading of this policy. As we had previously discussed as a board, on March 31st of 2021, Governor Lee signed the Teacher Discipline Act into law. This act went into effect on January 1st, which grants educators the ability to submit a written request to their principal that a student who repeatedly or substantially disrupts the educational environment be removed from the classroom for a specified period of time. As a result of the new law, we did recommend adopting a policy to address this, and that was adopted on first reading at our December board meeting. During that meeting, there was additional discussion on making sure that our school counselors were involved in this process, and we have gone back as a staff and added lines 15 and 16 to this policy, which specifically addresses this concern. So we are recommending approval, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do we have a motion to approve policy 6.306 as written.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Now, any questions or comments? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Middle Tennessee Electric Lighting conversion. Mr.
Yes, sir, that's
Ringstaff?
me. Touchstone Energy Project Day for Bradley Academy. Through a partnership with the United Way of Rutherford and Cannon counties, and also the Middle Tennessee Electric, they have volunteered to replace 200 fluorescent lights at Bradley Academy to LED light kits. Now, there are two major advantages for replacing them, putting them in the LED light kits. Number one, they last longer. An LED light kit can last 50,000 to 100,000 hours as opposed to a fluorescent light roughly around 10,000 hours. Also, they are extremely efficient as far as energy. So we should see a big cut in our electricity bill and especially our lighting expense at Bradley Academy. The cost of the light kits are around $18,000. The labor, we estimate around $7,000. So this is a $25,000 donation to Bradley Academy and to Murfreesboro City Schools. And it's because of this partnership. This work will be done on Saturday, March the 5th, when no students are at the school. We would like to thank Ella Weaver of United Way of Rutherford and Cannon counties, and Jay Sanders with Middle Tennessee Electric Company for coordinating this endeavor. Murfreesboro City Schools would also like to thank the following organizations involved with this Touchstone Energy Project: Touchstone Energy Cooperatives, National Rural Electric Cooperatives Association, Tennessee Valley Authority, Middle Tennessee Electric, TECA, Tennessee Electric Cooperative Association, and of course the United Way of Rutherford and Cannon counties. And we are recommending approval of this project at Bradley Academy.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a motion to approve the project?
So moved.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Now, any questions or comments?
It's just incredible, Mr. Chairman.
I think it's
I
great.
think you're exactly correct.
It's great.
All right, all in favor of the motion and to approve the project, say aye.
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 Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Esser?
Yes, sir. This is the approval of our ESSER 3.0 Public Plan Addendum. School districts are required by federal law to update the ESSER 3.0 Public Plan and Safe Return to In-Person Instruction Plan every 6 months through September of 2023. So the required addendums must be approved by the school board and then posted on our district's website. You had previously approved the public plan in October, and there are no program changes in this addendum from what the board has previously approved. So this addendum is just to meet that requirement. The Safe Return to In-Person Instruction and Continuity of Learning Plan has also been updated to match our current COVID guidelines as listed on our district website. And we are recommending approval of both of these addendums as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Have a
Second.
second. Thank you, Mr. Settle. Now, any question or discussion? Mr. Ballard?
As you said, we do this every 6 months to validate what we're doing with ESSER, right? To
Yes,
the
sir.
government.
Yes, sir. So we were required as we make, because the budget was, for instance, ESSER 3 over 3 years, we made an initial plan, which we approved in the last budget cycle. And then this federal government is saying every 6 months, if we make addendums to that, we have to make sure we're putting that in our public-facing plan. So currently we haven't. I will say as we begin to start this next budget cycle, we will of course be looking at the remaining ESSER 3 funds we have. So when this comes back up before the board in 6 months, there will be expected changes to that as we relook at cost and so on. But for this first required one, there were no changes.
Okay, so do we expect them to give feedback on being approved at what we've submitted, or?
We will do that through the state process. Anytime we do a budget revision with the state has to do approval for that. So we would come to you guys first, get the board's approval first, then submit that in conjunction with the state, and then get state approval. If for some reason they did not approve it, then we would bring the revision back to the board. But our team works, Dr. Hill, who oversees our ESSER funds, and of course Ms. Williams and Becky Sally, they work very close with the state to make sure we get these approved the first time. That's our goal.
It's a big job, I can imagine, and just trying to dot all the i's and cross all the t's has got to be an enormous undertaking. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor, we have a motion to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, budget transfers.
Yes, sir. We have two budget transfers for you to approve tonight. We are bringing two documents. The first is to recognize new federal grant monies that MCS has received. These new grants are provided to help support the early literacy work we are undertaking in Murfreesboro City, and will provide funds specifically for early literacy training and stipends for teachers who attend those trainings. Additionally, we received an increase to a previous grant we were awarded to address the needs of our students who identify as homeless. The increase will supply funding for our school counselors to provide assistance to our students over the summer who may be homeless. And we are recommending approval of these budget amendments, which indicate the new funds we have received.
We have a motion to approve the budget.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Now, any questions or comments? Ms. Goff?
I wanted to ask about that Sounds First. Why did I think that that was free,
So
no cost to us?
So the training is not of a cost to us. But the budget is paying for is the state is giving us funds to then provide our teachers stipends to go through the training. It's a 4-day training. It happens either over the summer or on Saturdays. And so then we get that money so we can turn around and pay our teachers to attend that training. But it is not a cost to us for that training.
Any other question or comment? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you.
We have one more budget approval for tonight, Mr. Chair. The second document we are bringing to the board is to address our mid-year budget revisions to several federal grants in our federal project funds. The original budgets were approved by both the board and the city council. These revisions represent no new revenue, no major programmatic changes, and no changes to fund balance. These are needed to address moving money to appropriate line items to successfully implement the programs that were approved, and we recommend approval of these budget amendments.
All right, sir. Thank you. We have a motion to approve the budget amendments.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion?
Ms. Barton, we have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Settles. Any question or comment? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Ready for reports and information?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Our first report tonight is on our zoning presentation to review with the board where we are in the rezoning process. So for those who may be watching at home, and as a board, we know we met back in January to review this. We have taken the feedback from the board from that night and moved forward to continue this planning. So at this point, I'm just going to give a very brief overview of our zoning plan, both for the board to know where we are and for the public at home. So obviously, as we look at rezoning, we know that we have several schools that are currently at or above capacity. This includes Salem, Overall Creek, and Scales on the west side of the town. We know we need to address these areas not only for the fact that they're currently at capacity, but also at the growth in this area. And as the board is aware, the staff looked at several options to help address these issues and appropriately plan for the future. I always want to start by saying we know that zoning is never an easy issue to address, and we were very aware of the impact this would have on our families as we were working through these plans. So when you look at our district, as I mentioned, the areas that are currently at or over capacity would be Overall Creek, which is represented in the purple, Scales, which is represented in the light blue, and Salem, which is represented in the dark blue. And one of the issues we discussed at the board meeting was the idea of, because all that growth is happening on the west side of town, we are somewhat limited on where we can move those students. So when we first started looking at this, our first plan is what we are now calling the major rezoning plan. And this was pretty significant changes to our districts. 11 of our 13 schools would have been impacted, and it would have moved approximately 1,300 kindergarten through 5th grade students. Knowing what we have coming possible in the future and wanting to, again, minimize the impact on families as much as we can, we then begin to go back and look at other options. So after the board meeting on January 11th, with the board's direction, we began to look more closely at the minor rezoning plan and using that as our primary plan. In this minor rezoning plan, as a reminder, we would only be pulling students from Salem and Overall Creek. These are our two schools that are in most need of the relief and also where the most growth is happening. We would have to move those students to a combination of Cason Lane, Black Fox, and Northfield. Add that with Scales, which is currently at capacity, and we were able to free up some classrooms by adjusting where our pre-K classrooms are located. So if we can move our pre-K classrooms out of those buildings, then we can move fewer students in our district. So in this plan, we would be moving 110 students who are on the northern end, represented by the circle, that are currently zoned for Overall Creek, that would go to Northfield. This area of town, just to make sure everyone's clear, is the Florence Road area and also Northwest Broad. So those students who are currently zoned for Overall would be rezoned to Northfield. And those would be the only zoned students moved out of that school. For Salem, we would we'd have to move more students because of the size and the growth. First, there would be 133 students located along Warrior Drive who would move to Cason Lane. And Cason Lane, so you're clear, I don't know if you can see on my computer, is there's a purple school relatively close to Cason Lane, just above that you can see that is where Cason Lane is located. The second group from Salem would be 121 students on the east side of Church Street. They would be rezoned to Black Fox. And those students, that would again take a little over 250 students away from Salem, where we have the most growth occurring, and freeing up the most space there by moving them to Cason Lane and to Black Fox. We did split that area into two different schools to make sure that it was accessible to families and it was easy for our families and our transportation as well. Those would be the only students we would actually be moving out of the schools who are zoned to those schools. As I mentioned, one way we're freeing up classroom space, both at Black Fox and Scales specifically, is by looking at the movement of our pre-K classrooms. So if you look at this table in the first two columns, it shows you where our current pre-K placements are, and then in the last two columns, where we would be moving those students to. So you can see we are relocating pre-K classrooms to Hobgood, John Pittard, Irma Siegel, and Mitchell Nielsen. They would all be adding pre-K classrooms. One of the questions we often get with rezoning is around grandfathering and who will be allowed to remain in the building that may be impacted. So under the proposal that we have presented, rising in-city 5th and 6th grade students would be grandfathered in to the proposal. They would be able to stay. For Salem, we would add 4th grade to that list. And the reason we added 4th grade at Salem is to make sure that as a district, we were not moving students to more than 2 schools in their career. So our current 3rd graders, rising 4th graders, started kindergarten at one school. When Salem opened, they were moved there in 1st grade. And we want to make sure we give those families the opportunity to stay so they're not moved by the district to a 3rd school. So that's why 4th grade is included. We would allow younger siblings who have older siblings taking advantage of that grandfather option to remain, and that would include new kindergarten students for next year, or families who may have a kindergartner coming in. And those siblings would remain as long as the grandfather student is in that school, so that we were not sending one child from a family to one school and another child to another school. Students who would need to go to their new zone school would, of course, be any student not eligible to be grandfathered, and that would include students on current zone waivers if they're attending a closed zone school. For in-city students, of course, rising 5th and 6th graders, as we mentioned above, currently on zone waivers at closed schools would follow that grandfather option. So that grandfather option would go to every school that's impacted in a closed zone school. We are recommending that Bradley, Erma-Siegel, Hobgood, Pittard, Mitchell-Nielsen, Northfield, and Reeves-Rogers would all be open zone schools. Salem, Overall Creek, Cason Lane, Black Fox, and Scales would be our closed zone schools going into next year. Of course, the board has seen this plan now, and again, the revisions we have made since our last meeting, which have been minor, and we have also started looking for community input. So last week, we did send an email to the Salem and Overall Creek families to alert them that this rezoning was taking place. We put the proposed maps and the proposed plans, which you as a board have seen, on our website so our families could see that as well. We don't want there to be any surprises. We want to make sure everyone's well known. Tomorrow, we will send a follow-up email again to families to remind them that the board has seen this tonight, and to remind them that we have 3 town hall meetings coming up, which we would encourage families who may be impacted to come and hear from us, and then maybe let their concerns be known. The first one is this Thursday at Overall Creek at 5:30. Next Monday, the 31st, we will repeat that at Salem Elementary at 4:30. And then we'll also be offering a virtual Zoom meeting on the 1st as well. So we want to make sure any parent that has concerns, I know we've already started to hear from some, have a formal way to let those questions be answered as well. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions you have regarding this, but we did want to make sure that both the board and the public were well aware.
Good, thank you, sir. All right, have questions, board members? We have seen this and we've discussed it, but you may have other questions. Do you? I see no one with any questions, so.
And I would like to say that we don't have questions because the students are coming out of the 2 schools that are absolutely ridiculously overcrowded. And as well as, like you said, nobody wants to move. We get that. I didn't want my people to leave me either, but we also have to maintain a student-people ratio. I mean, a people-teacher ratio, and we can't do that with overcrowded numbers, and we can't provide the same level of program that we can provide when numbers are more in line. So, again, it's never easy, but it's something we have to do for the good of everyone in those schools.
Absolutely.
Well said. All right, any other comments or discussions? All right, thank you, sir, for the report. Personnel report?
Yes, sir. Your personnel report has been provided to you in your packet, and Mr. Ringstaff is available if you have any questions regarding that.
All right, anyone have a question for Mr. Ringstaff? All right, enrollment report. Mr. Marlin?
Evening, Board.
Good evening.
I will refer you to the form in your packet, the enrollment period for enrollment period 4. Just a note here that, if you'll notice at the top of that page, that goes through the 14th of December. Our next period 5, will end on February the 1st, and we'll have a new report at that time. But these are the numbers for period 4. Our enrollment was 9,401, which was an increase of 401 from the end of last school year. That's an increase of 23 over the last period. So from period 3 to period 4, we increased by 23%. Our average attendance percentage, you'll notice, was 93.6%, which was lower. And we know that's due to some of the illnesses that our schools and our children are experiencing at this time. If you'll look next at the PTR report for period 4, I'll refer you to the bottom green section, which is the grades K through 3. You'll see those numbers, our pupil-teacher ratio for those grades. To the right of that, in the blue, are the pupil-teacher ratio for each of the upper grades, 4, 5, and 6. And then in the box in the bottom, you'll see the averages across the board for kindergarten through 3rd grade, which is 18.71 per teacher. And then for 4th through 6th grade, 20.68 per teacher. Your next report is the truancy, the 10-plus unexcused absences. At the end of period 4, we had 97 students who have reached that plateau of having 10-plus unexcused days for that time period. That's up, and we do expect that number to be higher, especially as we go through. But these are unexcused absences, and all of our quarantines will be excused absences. Then on the last page, our chronic absenteeism. You'll see for the 4th period, that number has dropped to 1,484 from 1,703 from period 3. So as we have noted in the past, this number tends to drop over time. The requirement for this period was 8+ days of any either excused or unexcused. And so we have 1,484 students who have that many absences of either type. And we expect that number to decline each period thereafter.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Marlin?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. Revenue and expenditure report.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Happy School Board Week.
Thank you.
So before you tonight, we have financial information through the end of December. So we have a cumulative revenue of $37 million and $39 million in expenditures. And we've charted a course, and right now we're pretty stable and steady on that. On the revenue side, when we look at the revenue numbers, it's those big 3, lines 1, 2, and 5. And those are our county property taxes, our county shared sales tax, and our BEP revenue, the portion of the money that we get from the state. December, for the county shared property tax, we haven't seen the big money come through in December. So this month we received just under $1 million in county property taxes. Next month we receive $6.8 million. So very robust, and that's a considerable increase. It's an 8% increase from this time last year on our county property taxes. Our sales tax, again, it's a very robust number. We're seeing 11% increase in our sales tax figures for Rutherford County. BEP, we get a standard amount every month. In January, we'll have a slight increase that will cover our increase in medical insurance to participate in the state insurance plan. And just like we had some mid-year budget revisions for our federal projects, next month, we'll have some mid-year budget revisions for our general purpose cafeteria and our ESP funds. And I say mid-year in January, again, that's because of those insurance changes. And January is actually mid-year for our teacher salaries, just the way that calendar, that 12-month calendar works. So we will have a little bit different presentation next month of our revenue and expenditures for comparison purposes, and some budget revisions coming through. And our expenditures are right on line. They're consistent with where we are on our budget. And again, we'll have some shifts and changes on our expenditures line items next month. So just a little heads up there. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anyone have a question? Thank you, ma'am, very much. Good report. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate all of y'all.
Dr. Duke, Director's Update.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I have a very, very brief director's update tonight. So I know we've talked about a lot with zoning, but as a reminder, one more time, the zoning meetings are Thursday. We want to make sure our public knows and comes out to that. And I do want to let the board know, during our work session, or I'm sorry, our retreat back in January, it was brought up about doing a joint meeting with the county board and our legislative delegation, as they're currently in the General Assembly. So we have started to organize that. Ms. Van Cleve is working on that with their board chair, and as soon as we hear back from our delegation, we will get you dates, and we're very much looking forward to sitting down with them, hearing what their priorities are for the General Assembly, and then getting feedback from us as well about what we would like to see them also tackle. So I want to let you know that is coming up, and we will get that information to you. But Mr. Chair, that is all the updates I have. So again, once again, happy School Board Week. We appreciate all you do, and that's all I have.
Thank you, sir, very much. Anything else coming before this board tonight? Any other business or comments? Mr. Shackley, welcome. Glad to have you with us.
Be here, sir.
All right, if not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Have a second. Mr. Ballard, all in favor? Good night.
Good night.